So October 25th, 2010, my dad, um, well, prior to that, he'd been a little bit sick with struggling with his blood sugar control. But on October 25th, 2010, he had a stroke. Um, so he had fallen in hard times. He lived in North Carolina, and I suggested that he move to Tennessee, where he previously lived for like 13 years. I lived there at the time, and that if he came, maybe he could get back on his feet. He struggled to find work, and also seemed like he was having some issues with his health. So he moved from North Carolina back to Collegedale, Tennessee, and within like 2 days of being there, I was talking to him over the phone from work, just checking in, and he was talking about his siblings being children and just seemed very confused. So then I left work, went home, and took him to the ER, and they said he had a stroke and then he was in end-stage kidney failure. So that's how it started. When my dad went to the hospital and they found that he had the stroke and the kidney failure and all that, and that he needed to be on dialysis, we found out through our process, okay, like he came, he didn't have any insurance, and my dad has been in the US longer than I've been alive, so I just assumed that all of his immigration stuff was intact because he had been working for many years. And when he came with all his things, like he keeps every single document. So I went through his stuff. I could not find any green card, any type of work permit or anything, nothing about insurance. So the first step, many people on dialysis, they can get Medicare early to help cover it. So I applied for a replacement green card thinking that he had one, and found out through that process that he never had one, and he couldn't get out the hospital until he was a legal documented person, because no dialysis center would take him. So it took about 9 months from when he went to the hospital to get his immigration stuff worked out. That way he could leave the hospital to then go to dialysis. And then at that point, because of the dementia and all his medical needs, he was in assisted living because he needed like 24-hour supervision just for safety. My husband and I, we moved to Michigan along with my dad because my husband needed to go to school. It was very difficult. He didn't have, so he had Medicare, which paid for a lot of things. And then the American Kidney Fund, they gave him a grant to help with the secondary insurance so he wouldn't have any extra charges. So between the Medicare and the secondary insurance, all of his bills were paid. But we didn't have Medicaid to pay for transportation. So Maurice and I, we would 3 days a week take turns dropping him to dialysis or picking him up from dialysis. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So like Vespers was not a thing that we did, because Friday nights we had to pick up my dad. He knew that he wasn't feeling good, but he didn't really accept that he had any limitations. So in his head, every place that we had him or moved him was temporary. And his ultimate goal is that he wanted to live on his own, have his own